Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are reacting to another video and I haven't done this in a long time. And I tried to do a recording but something went wrong. Am I pretty? You're probably ugly, I don't know. SCP 6 yeah, I love it. 6979 Night Parade of a Single Demon SCP animation. Let's sure leave a like and let's get into this.
Viewer discretion is advised. I don't know what happened, nor do I know what I did to deserve something like this to happen to me. But it did. I was just minding my own business, walking through the metropolitan area of Tokyo. All of a sudden, everyone vanished, and the world around me took on a deep red hue. Confused and scared, I looked for the closest thing to normal I could find, which happened to be a candy shop of all places. Inside, even the contents of the store had that bloody red color too. The liquid candies, on the other hand, took on a deep black color that resembled squid ink. I slumped against the counter and pondered what I would do, or could do, to escape this place. My decision was made for me, however, when a woman opened the door to the store.
You know, I'm gonna
long
put it
black
here.
hair that nearly reached the floor.
Yo.
Clawed hands that were stained crimson, darker than the world around me. Her mouth was covered by a surgical mask that failed to cover up the scars that must have extended out from her lips.
Oh, no, that's
the next
okay.
thing she did was remove said mask.
Okay, wow, she's so pretty.
She then smiled, I think. It was hard to tell, considering that her mouth reached her ears. Dozens of scars extended outwards from her lips. Her gaze was completely locked onto me when she was approaching me, easily towering over me as well.
Wow, she's...
Am I pretty? She asked.
No.
Stupefied by this question, I reflexively answered with a quick no. Stupid mistake on my part. The next thing I knew, my eardrums burst. She let out a horrifying shriek that brought me to the ground in pain and terror. The last thing I remembered as I clutched my bleeding ears was looking up to see a clawed hand closing in on my neck. I was positive I'd been decapitated as the world blurred on by and my head rolled on the ground. But no sooner did my head stop rolling than I returned back to Tokyo, the real Tokyo. I quickly clutched my throat and patted my body wildly as people watched on. How I survived and where I went? Hell if I know. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-6979. SCP-6979, also known as Night Parade of a Single Demon, is a humanoid entity that resembles a ghost by all appearances, with a mutilated face and exceptionally long claws. 6979 itself lives in a separate connected dimension to our own.
Hopefully they don't swear.
Many may know 6979 by her most famous moniker, the Slit-Mouthed Woman. However, 6979 only takes on this form in order to feed on belief from humanity so as to continue her own existence. She can feed on this belief in her by either killing or frightening her prey, summarily causing others to believe in and fear her. However, due to an agreement with the Foundation, all deaths and attacks associated with 6979 have ceased. The dimension that 6979 originates is called Mamonokai, designated as SCP-6979-1. This place appears to be an exact replica of Japan, except for a few characteristics that stand out. All light within the dimension is a dark shade of red. All grounds are covered in soot, all liquids are black, and all electronic devices are damaged unless connected to a power source upon entry into the dimension. The actual extent to how much of Japan is recreated here is unknown. The only method to get into Mamonokai is to dematerialize and rematerialize into it by being in contact with 6979. Apparently, there are portals that grant access to this dimension, but they are currently inactive due to some sealing rituals the Foundation has yet to decipher. Furthermore, the other inhabitants that exist within 6979-1, collectively referred to as SCP-6979-2. Well, that's the designation they would have been given if they hadn't all been exterminated.
1930!
These Anomalous Matters Extermination Agency, or IJAMEA, during the 1930s. It is for that reason that 6979 is now the sole inhabitant of Mamonokai. An operation was carried out to determine 6979's sentience. The plan was to send a D-Class to an area as bait and to ask the entity questions. 12 agents were stationed around the area should the situation go awry. When 6979 appeared, the D-Class proceeded with the prepared questions. However, 6979 appeared guarded and then began to demanifest. As if a sudden surge of courage overcame him, the D-Class reached out and grabbed its hand. Together, they vanished and reappeared in 6979-1. The D-Class regained consciousness and noticed that his surroundings were tinted red. Still on the ground, he looked up and screamed when he saw 6979, who was now dressed in a traditional ritual white kimono, with much longer hair and short hands. Its mouth had been turned vertically, now extending from where its right eye used to be, down to its chin and neck, and into its chest, disappearing under its kimono. Its left eye seemed to have partially morphed with its right one into a single organ. The umbrella it carried was made of red paper with several holes in it. Oh my God, please, spare me. 6979 tilted its head, then crouched and stared at him directly.
Leave. No.
Its gaze remained fixed on the still trembling D-Class. Oh, for sure. I'll do that. If you'll just tell me where the exit is. But 6979 only lifted its claw and said,
There is no exit but death.
Oh, let's not do that then. 6979 lowered its claw.
Why have you come here? Who sent you?
Me coming here wasn't part of the plan. My, government was trying to stop you from killing people on, the other side.
Am I a monster to be stopped now? For mere dozens of lives?
Yes, even a single life is...
Don't you dare reproach me for what your filthy ill caused. Bad deeds are punishments themselves. Nay,
what are we watching after this?
Punishment for your actions would be an insult to the suffering you've inflicted upon my world.
Okay.
The D-Class was dumbfounded, so he remained silent.
Am I subscribed?
Judging from your reaction, you probably don't know what the people from your world did to mine. Very well, I'll tell you. I need you to know, else my pain, the pain of my people, will be not forgotten. Come, walk with me.
6979 turned around and the D-Class followed. Together, they walked past many dilapidated houses.
I've been suffering for many years now.
Her voice is nice, but her face... Wait, what?
Only by taking on the identity of a murderous beast in your realm was I able to survive.
Soon, they arrived at an empty lot with a building made of concrete.
Oh yeah, that reminds me, I'll have to do the Minecraft reaction.
Your government, your empire, when they came to conscript us, it was actually made by us. Because why would the Imperial Army sully their hands with hard labor?
Dang it.
Okay. 6979 pointed towards an empty crate with the phrase, Property of the Empire of Great Japan, and the logo of IJAMEA.
This is where we were trained by your people to fight for your emperor. They used us as weapons against some foreign countries that I don't even remember the names of. And so, they demanded absolute obedience in the fear of us betraying them out on the battlefield. Believe me when I say that they got what they asked for. Scores of us were sent out to the battlefield in your world, only to die within days.
Well, if I saw that, I would also be frightened.
The Emperor realized that everything they did with us was nothing but a waste of time. Thousands of us dead, only to be thought a minor waste of time and resources by an uncaring tyrant. Still, why waste anything? So, they sent the rest of us out to die for the glory of their empire. Only I survived after faking suicide. Looking like a bloodied up corpse made it easy. Look at me.
I'm sorry. I had no idea. If it's any consolation, I believe the age of imperialism is now over. I'm sure.
We tried to fight back, of course, using powers of magic, brute force, and even the unbridled fury of those you consider deities. In the end, we failed against the might of the Emperor's imperial soldiers. Oh, how they slaughtered us with their weapons. causing many of us to give up on the fight before it really started. After all, what use is control over lightning if 2 well-placed bullets can snuff out your life?
They remained silent for a moment. I'll make sure I let our people know. I promise.
As I wish to be alone with my thoughts. Very well. Again, there's only one way to return to your world from this place. Death.
6979 lifted its claw in the air.
I'll make it as painless as I possibly can. You deserve this much.
That's not really that comforting.
I tried. Ready?
The D-Class inhaled sharply and closed his eyes as he stilled himself. Sure. Why not?
Kill him!
Better sooner than... 6979 swiped its claw at his neck, decapitating him in one clean cut. Before his head touched the ground, the D-Class faded into nothingness and reappeared back in his reality. After hearing the report, the Foundation set to work on unlocking and fixing the portals to Momonokai. It appears that the blocked portals are what had been forcing 6979 to come to our world to feed. In doing so, they would be able to offer 6979 some comfort in all that it had lost. With the portals finally reopened, 6979 no longer needed to feed on humanity's beliefs any further. When asked why that was, she didn't answer, and only smiled instead.
That's a one creepy smile. So the next one, next one reacting to, or we can choose here. Stretchy Clown Hunter, or just ignore that. I think we'll do this one. The Stretchy Clown Eater.
When I was a kid, I often played in the alleyways between the apartment buildings, due to my parents fighting all the time. It sounds pretty depressing, but I actually loved creating random imaginary worlds in those confined rectangular spaces. And I was lucky enough to not run into any shady characters. Well, at least most of the time. And if I did, they weren't really interested in stealing from a poor, dirty kid anyway. I wish I could say that nothing weird or disturbing things happened, but that's not how it works. You see, one evening a clown stepped into my alleyway. He was tall, muscular, but had a rather large stomach, shirtless, but wore a dirty pair of slacks.
Wait. Wow. Wowee. I'm just kidding, that looks ugly. Disgusting.
He smiled at me as he made his way over to me. The blue, white, and red paint that covered half his body shone brightly underneath the streetlights. I sank into myself as he stood before me, blocking my path. He turned his ear towards my apartment and listened to the sounds of my parents fighting, before shaking his head in a disappointed fashion. Parents, huh, kid? I sheepishly nodded. Well, don't worry. I've got something to cheer you up.
But kill me.
Without warning, his arms stretched up into the air and squiggled around until they formed the word hello above him. Amused and amazed at this, I gasped happily and clapped. Cool, huh? Now watch this. He pulled out a knife. Terror seized me. But instead of turning it on me, he cut off a long strip of his arm flesh and began folding it into something I couldn't see. Ta-da! And now I present you a sanitizer.
What?
He presented a rose made of flesh to me and sprayed it with a bottle he seemed to pull out of the air. He smiled and gave me the rose. Now, be a good kid. Have a happy childhood that I couldn't get. He then turned to the apartment wall and slammed a fist into it with so much force that it shook even the foundations. Shut up! My parents quieted themselves immediately. With a nod, he left.
Oh.
Years later, I still keep the fleshy rose that hasn't decayed to this day. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today,
I like that guy.
SCP Foundation Euclid Class
clown.
Object SCP-3036.
Hopefully he doesn't kill us. We'll kill that guy.
SCP-3036, also known as Cheat Clown Hunter Extraordinaire, resembles a humanoid circus clown that is composed entirely of human flesh, muscle, and an assortment of bodily fluids. 3036 does not possess a nervous system, skeletal system, nor reproductive system. However, 3036 speaks perfect English and can perform high-functioning tasks despite not having a brain. Interviews with 3036 tend to be calm and
He doesn't have a brain?
He typically follows Foundation rules. 3036 is able to stretch its body to
What?
incredible proportions.
What the?
Estimated full length to be over 100 feet for any part of its body.
100 feet, that's like 30 meters. I think 10 feet is 3, yeah, that's 30 meters. Whoa, that's
3036 does not feel pain when
Wow.
stretched due to lacking a nervous system. He is capable of self-regeneration should it receive any damage that isn't continuously inflicted upon it. There are 2 living entities conjoined at the hip and connected to
Okay.
3036's throat by what appear to be feeding tubes that provide them with sustenance.
oh
3036 says that these are his siblings,
ah
given to him by his previous owner, Mr. Fuller, after successfully carrying out orders for him. An interview was carried out by Dr. Henderson. Dr. Henderson
Sorry.
stepped into the room. He winced upon setting his eyes on 3036's grotesque appearance. 3036 waved his hand slightly with a sly smile. The doctor settled down and prepared his files. Hello, 3036. Or would you prefer Stretchy?
no.
Stretchy, please.
Okay,
For my
Stretchy,
own
sure.
stage name. Thank you very much. Very well. Stretchy, tell me, what was your job while employed by Mr. Herman Fuller at the circus? Well, first off, I was surgically modified to become this. Mr. Fuller and his team of doctors ripped my body open, took stuff out, put stuff in, and slapped some magic on me, and poof, you got me. 3036 stretched his arms out and spun his pointer fingers before his arms snapped back into place. Right, and what did you do? I'm a clown hunter. Hunted down the more stubborn, rebellious clowns, those that didn't want to follow Fuller's orders. But Maskey hated how successful I was at it. Now, I hear you ask, who is Maskey? Well, Maskey is just another clown hunter. He's strong just like me, but that's about it. Well, other than being able to look like anyone he wanted to, annoying jerk he is. Dr. Henderson noted that 3036 appeared annoyed when he mentioned Maskey. But I hope you guys like the circus, cause pretty soon, this place will turn into one. What do you mean? That means Maskey will be coming. I suggest you be ready for him and his goon squad, sir. 3036 began to chuckle as Dr. Henderson hastily ended the interview. He gathered his files and stepped out of the room, leaving the clown laughing manically. Dr. Henderson immediately got into contact with the site director. Sir, you hear what the clown said? Around a year after 3036's interview, 3 unknown individuals who were described as clown-like in appearance raided Site 43 where 3036 was being held. A power outage allowed them to enter mostly unnoticed, as Foundation security personnel were dealing with maintaining order and prepping for potential breaches by other SCPs on site. When the 3 entities were noticed, security engaged them, but was almost defeated instantly and brutally mutilated. The site director
Why is their blood
closed off
purple?
access to where 3036 was being held.
Oh, it's actually
Called for
cold.
MTF, the Whistleblowers, and MTF SCP, short for Sane Clown Posse, to aid the site in combating these anomalous beings. The few remaining security officers fought valiantly against them, but one of the entities managed to slip away and confront 3036. A brief recording between the two was recorded before they engaged in hand-to-hand combat. 3036 walked about casually in front of a furious-looking clown. Its lips squeezed into a wry smile, and its eyes watched the clown intently. Maskey, it's been a long time.
Turn into
my friend.
30
How do you
meters.
do? It then performed a mock bow, which further irritated Maskey. Not too well, considering you're getting help from these 2 morons, eh? Dearie me, it looks like Fuller's hunters aren't what they used to be. The clown then grunted loudly. I know you can look like anyone you want to, but damn, do you sound stupid. You can't even sound like a proper human being to save your life. Maskey had enough. It launched itself towards 3036. And I thought we're about to make up for old time's sake now. 3036's arm extended rapidly and pummeled Maskey with such force it knocked it out of its cell. 3036 stepped out and was met with Maskey's companions. And now, you're friends. 3036 then engaged with the 3 entities, showing great martial prowess despite sustaining heavy injuries and being outnumbered. Injured security personnel refrained from getting anywhere near them as the fight was barbaric and savage. They only watched from a distance. Some of them took the opportunity in the midst of chaos to pull their wounded away from the area. After a long, grueling fight that lasted nearly an hour, the task force teams arrived just in time as the three entities were about to give 3036 the killing blow. Seeing that they were now outnumbered by much more competent forces, they escaped through a transdimensional portal that was generated from a crude Jack-in-the-Box toy.
That's
Thank
cool.
you for the timely rescue, gentlemen. The clown in distress here could really use a hand, you know? 3036 wiggled his body from side to side to show his missing arms and the strips of flesh that hung off his body. The men lifted 3036 up in disgust. Dr. Henderson arranged an interview the next day. He walked into the room
He's good
and
at
was stunned for a moment when he saw 3036 looking at him from the other side of the desk, sitting stupidly with its disproportionately small growing limbs. I've been wondering, why did you allow yourself to be recaptured?
Funny.
You've shown to be capable of defending yourself. Come on, Doc. Do you not see these? Those freaks did a number on me. Dr. Henderson studied 3036 briefly and said, Freaks, huh? Yeah, whatever. The point is, I could take any of them on, but three of them, fat chance. But I put up a pretty good fight, didn't I? Those jerks couldn't finish me off even after an hour. Still, I think I deserve a reward for being a good lad, don't I? How about a deck of playing cards and an extra half hour of free time? I can get you the cards, but I'll have to see about the extra free time, he said as he got up to leave the room. Under
does he
the
need
orders of the site
cards?
director, Site 43 beefed up their security and kept MTF Same Clown posse on site in case they were ever attacked again by the anomalous foes of 3036. No attack has occurred since then, and 3036 has remained compliant with the Foundation and has even expressed interest in joining an MTF squad so that he can put his hunting abilities to good use. Help the people who helped him. Only fair, right? Remember to check out
Yeah, I
the
like that
animation
guy.
channel. The
We're gonna do
Rubber
like
Talk,
2
where
or
I
1
share my
more.
own story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description.
That's
to
my
enter the
right
Rubber's
arm,
world.
but for you guys, I
Enjoyed
think it's
today's
left.
video. Which SCP do you want to see in the next video and why it is interesting?
I'll flip
Let us know in
there.
the comments below.
That's
We will
my
draw your
the
story
door's
and
left,
share it
yeah.
with the world. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Please share it to your friends if you like this video. Thank you so much.
No, I'm
for
never gonna
watching,
share
and we will see
anything.
you in the next video. Bye bye.
Okay, next video. A man and his monster. We're gonna do 1 or 2. Ooh. That looks cool. But we'll do this one,
Viewer discretion is advised.
of course.
What if one day,
Wait.
whatever I've created in my mind can be realized?
Have we reacted to this? Yep, we have. I just realized we have. No, not dear. SCP-66644A. I don't know. Oh, no, Doorman. I need Doorman.
Sell online and
Yep,
grow your
we have
business with Wix e-commerce.
7
A
million.
beautiful storefront for your
The Foundation.
Okay, I'll be back in a few seconds. Well, for you guys, it will be immediately, but yeah. Okay, I'm back. I think, yeah. I hope so. Let's play. I said play.
Foundation ordered a male D-class
mind.
personnel to torture D-3032 with a combat knife until she opened the door. After 2 hours of tormenting, D-3032 died
Wow.
from blood loss. She made no attempt to open the door in the entire process. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today
I got
we
some
bring
food.
you SCP Foundation Euclid class object
I'll mute my mic.
SCP-303.
Just because, yeah.
SCP-303, also known as the Doorman, is a new, sexless, emaciated humanoid figure with reddish-brown skin. Instead of normal facial features, its head is dominated by an extremely large mouth, which bears a set of oversized human teeth. It continually vocalizes a wheezing noise loud enough to be heard.
If you don't know what sexless means, it is like non-genderless, just saying. Yeah. Yeah.
From the other side of most solid doors. SCP-303 will periodically materialize behind any closed door. hatch, or other entryway barrier opposite an observer, chosen by unknown means. 303 will then remain behind the door for an indeterminate amount of time. Any individual attempting to open the door or barrier will experience intense, paralyzing fear that lasts until 303 dematerializes. However, analysis indicates that SCP-303 is not, in fact, purposefully inducing fear in the victims. SCP-303 does not allow itself to come into direct visual contact with any observer, and has never allowed any individual to view more than 10% of its form. When the door or other entryway barrier is partially or completely transparent, 303 will materialize in an orientation that leaves only 10% or less of its body visible, or cause effects of fog or frost on the transparent surface to achieve the same effect. If SCP-303 is approached from a direction in which there is not a solid object or door-breaking line of sight, it will dematerialize before direct visual contact is made. Any electronic or complex mechanical devices that 303 encounters will temporarily be disabled. 303 has made no recorded attempt to engage any observer physically or verbally. In an incident, a Foundation agent was showering in her private quarters bathroom when she became aware of the presence of 303 on the opposite side of the shower curtain. It was wheezing extremely loudly. Startled by the discovery, she accidentally struck the shower curtain, causing it to sway outwards. The curtain partially wrapped around 303, revealing that it was less than 0.5 meters from the curtain, standing erect and facing the shower. The agent reports spending approximately the next 3 hours sobbing in the shower, quietly, as not to disturb 303. Luckily, the agent was able to exit the shower when 303's wheezing stopped. In another incident, an agent encountered 303 inside the Foundation's break room. He was attempting to obtain coffee creamer from the counter cabinet when he heard loud wheezing emanating from the cabinet and was overtaken by overwhelming fear. The agent later reported that 303 was huddled in the cabinet in a fetal position. The agent was too afraid to open the cabinet at that moment, but later, when the cabinet was examined, one container of powdered coffee creamer was missing. This is the first recorded instance of SCP-303 removing an object from a scene. After the object missing incident,
He's
the
hungry.
professor was discovered dead from dehydration in a second-floor storage room. It was estimated that the professor spent up to 5 days in the storage room before being discovered. A small 4-meter by 4-meter decompression chamber separated the storage room from the adjoining hallway. 303 occupied the decompression chamber for the duration of the professor's isolation in the storage room, disallowing entry from either direction and making it impossible for him to leave. After all the above incidents, a team consisting of a researcher, a professor, 4 security personnel, and 4 D-class personnel were assigned to immediately perform on-site testing. The following test took place at the door to a room from the first-floor hallway, which SCP-303 was reported to be within the room. One male D-class personnel, D-3031, was ordered to open the door, and threatened that if he does not open the door, he would be transferred to another horrible SCP duty for non-compliance. He refused, citing extreme fear. Then, the Foundation threatened him again, saying that if he doesn't do it, he would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. He refused, claiming that if he were to do so, that SCP-303 would hurt him. He was terminated on the spot. Shortly after, a female D-class personnel, D-3032, that had witnessed the termination of D-3031 was ordered to open the door, and threatened that she would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. She refused, claiming that if she opened the door, that SCP-303 would hurt her. And although D-3032 was not terminated, the Foundation ordered a male D-class personnel, D-3033, to torture D-3032 with a combat knife until she opened the door. After 2 hours of tormenting, D-3032 died from blood loss. She made no attempt to open the door in the entire process. The Foundation once assigned Dr. Hessen to test on SCP-303, along with SCP-729-J. SCP-729-J is a soft toy that gives death stare and corrode anything or anyone who even catches a slight look at it. When Dr. Hessen was told to walk through the door with 303 on the other side while holding SCP-729J, 303 promptly opened the door for Dr. Hessen and ushered her through before quickly exiting the room, with Dr. Hessen showing no sign of the usual fear response. 303 was found 6 hours later in an abandoned storage closet in a fetal position, sucking its thumb. SCP-303 appears to have claimed the second-floor storage room as its own. It has so far disallowed any personnel entry to the room since May 4th of 2010. It leaves periodically to acquire Foundation property, which is then moved into the second-floor storage room.
Okay.
To date, 303 has acquired 1 cryotube, 3 sets of standard Foundation surgical equipment, 2 D-class research cadavers, 1 gasoline-powered generator, a variety large quantities of chemicals, and also a container of powdered coffee creamer.
Oh yeah.
In addition to this, a
it.
number of classified materials have been obtained by SCP-303. Staff are still attempting to determine what specific purposes SCP-303 may have for these materials. 303 was also suspected of stealing SCP-573 and SCP-899. This incident was recorded in Site-62's containment breach record. It was about 1:34 a.m. that day, and 303 manifested outside Site-62's main entrance. Security personnel were panicking and fleeing. 10 minutes later, 303 opened Site-62's main entrance doors. Video feeds overcome with static for a period of 36 seconds. Video blackout follows possible route of entity through site. Then, a SCP personnel reported seeing 303. It headed towards inanimate SCP storage vaults. Security team was tasked to contain 303 immediately. After about 20 minutes, the entire security team was incapacitated by SCP-303. 303 exits Site-62 unopposed, and video interference finally ceases. Security later reports an overwhelming feeling of terror, preventing them from acting against 303. Upon inspection of Site-62 after the incident, SCP-573 was found missing. Warning sent out to all sites to be on guard for the entity. However,
I don't know if I said, but today's my birthday.
17 in the evening the next day, personnel at an unknown site report feeling of unease and panic. As the site is situated in the Rocky Mountains, it was put on lockdown while nearby sites were contacted. All the video feeds of the site were disrupted. Power fails, distress signal deactivates automatically. The site was unresponsive to outside contact. After an hour, MTF Alpha 16 finally arrived at the site, but all personnel found dead of evisceration or remain missing. MTF fails to verify location of anomaly housed at the site. SCP-899 declared missing. As SCP-303 has not yet been known to travel beyond the boundaries of an unknown site of the SCP Foundation, the entire area of the site is currently considered as SCP-303's containment area. All rooms in the site are to be altered, as to have 2 entrances separated by a distance of 10 meters or line of sight. Personnel are to be distributed evenly throughout the facility, with available radio or intercom contact so that encounters may be resolved quickly. Personnel who witness SCP-303 are to be submitted for immediate psychiatric evaluation. All SCP objects housed at the same site since before April 6, 2010 are to be transferred to another site, one at a time. Before we end this video, we are proud to present these incredibly sweet pieces of fan art. A big thank you to all of you. You can now send us your fan art, and we will be more than happy to show off your best art piece in our next video. Check out our description below on how to submit. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Which SCP do you want to see in the next video, and why it is interesting? Let us know in the comment below. We will draw your story and share it with the world. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Please share it to your friends if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the... Viewer discretion is advised.
Last video, guys. Sadly, I don't know if I should make this 50 minutes or what. But yeah. It's just
343 was standing just behind 239. His face was knit in concentration. The The old man's nose had a drop of blood forming just below the left nostril, slowly running down over the crest of his lip and dropping down onto his shirt. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation's Safe Class Object, SCP-343. SCP-343, colloquially nicknamed God by the staff of SCP Foundation, is an older man. He is a humanoid in appearance, but with apparent omnipotence. According to the Foundation, although 343 looks like an old man, his features could appear differently to each observer. 343 claimed to be the creator of the universe. When asked to prove it, he laughed, walked through the wall of the chamber, and returned seconds later with a hamburger in his hand. When the doctor returned for a second visit, the previously bare cell had been furnished into a larger room, one that embraced a fantastical Old English type of style, and seemed many times larger than it did from the exterior. 343 was discovered walking the streets of Prague. He was detained after a staff member witnessed him disappear from the street, only to reappear a short time later on a rooftop. 343 is detained willingly in his chamber, as containment has proved impossible. 343 resides in a 6.1 meter by 6.1 meter room at Minimal Security Site 17. He should be brought any items he requests and visited by at least one staff member each day because he likes company. Attempts to add further safety precautions or required clearances are unnecessary due to the nature of 343. SCP-343 greatly enjoys speaking with people and seems to have a knowledge of all topics. Visiting 343 has become a daily event for many of the Foundation's staff members, and most of them have reported feeling happier after each visit. Since 343 has been rather harmless thus far, all staff have been allowed access. According to SCP Tales, it was believed that 343 is the one who mentored SCP-239, allowing her to master her powers and create ways. SCP-239 is a small girl with the ability to do whatever she expresses a will to do, as long as she is conscious. If she can see it, she can change it. Hence, as a method of controlling 239, the Foundation has put her in a coma. However, SCP-239 later developed a complete resistance to the drugs the Foundation had used to keep her comatose. To stop her from reawakening, the director of SCP Foundation was forced to request the O5 Council for the immediate release of Dr. Alto Clef from his confinement, and immediately assigned him to this case. Dr. Clef was given access to any materials he required. All personnel were to assist Dr. Clef by any and all non-carnal means. Clef walked into the Victorian-styled study and smiled at the fragrance of pipe smoke and at the sight of old books. The old man was seated in a high-backed chair with a hardbound copy of Don Quixote open in his lap. The old man looked up, startled surprise, before smiling.
Dr. Clef.
Hello, 343.
Oh, please. No numbers between friends.
Sit, please. We both know what you are. I've never said anything about you, not to anyone, nor have I recommended your termination, mainly because you stayed at level 3 and never posed a significant threat. You remember me from the GOC then? Geneva? 1989? And you remembered that you owe me a favor.
Yes, Doctor. I remember.
I've come to collect. There's another type green. This one has progressed to level 4.
I'm very old now, Doctor. I'm not sure how useful I can be. Sometimes I look for books, but I can't remember their names, and they're just not there anymore. Just the other day, a young man came in here to ask me about something, and I forgot he was here. And then he wasn't. Just gone. And I can't remember him. No one wants to say anything.
Your aid will be necessary.
I am a man of honor, Doctor. I will do whatever you need.
Days later, Dr. Clef appeared in SCP-239's containment. He was looking through the steel,
attempting to get a glimpse at 239's sleeping form. He watched her, watched the fading phantasms of her flicker about the room and scratching at the walls. He turned and picked up the thin helmet, strapping it to his head. The body armor was a little bulkier than he'd anticipated, but it fit well enough. He pulled on the gloves, fingered the purple gun underneath his jacket, and felt through his pockets until he found the tiny box containing his emergency backup. He grinned and picked up a keycard, sliding it into a control panel in front of the glass. He flipped the switches all down to their off position and pulled out the revolver, bringing it up to point at 239, who was slowly waking up. Clef was running, very quickly. He could feel her back there, floating somewhere. He risked a glance backward, watching the floors buckle into water and piss, dirt and air. He hoped she would be off balance enough from the medications that she would be less...
Yeah! Sorry, guys.
Pointless hope now. He rounded the corner, and the walls slid into chunks of burning human flesh. The smell of human flesh began to turn his stomach slightly, before making it growl uncomfortably. One more turn, and he'd be at ground zero. Another 10 feet. 9, 8, 7. He burst through the doors. Where's 343? The doors opened slowly. The being that floated through them didn't look like it was, is, or had ever been a little girl. Years of atrophy had turned her limbs into spindly wires of flesh wrapped around bone. She wasn't able to lift them. She couldn't even turn her head. The tubes that had hung out of her arms were now crawling over her body like centipedes. She opened her mouth, trying to say something, but only a gurgle came out. She looked at Clef and gurgled again, louder, angrily. 343 was standing just behind 239, his face knit in concentration. The old man's nose had a drop of blood forming below the left nostril, slowly running down over the crest of his lip and dropping onto his shirt. The girl screamed in rage, and 343 cried out, staggered by the changes she was forcing into the world. The drugs in her system were quickly dissipating, with her control over the world around her returning. 239 turned the air into chlorine for a moment, just a moment before 343 could stop her. 343 was kneeling on the floor, ears bleeding. His knotted hands were clenched as his foe turned for the moment from Clef to float toward him. It was almost beautiful to watch, Clef thought, stopping for an instant to observe what he hoped was a rare circumstance. The distance between them crackled as the hovering female changed things, reversing the laws of physics and existence as 343 set them back into place. It was like watching a petulant child throw her toys to the floor while her patient grandfather picked them back up. Clef edged around near the door, raising the revolver again. He fired. Chunks of flesh were ripped from her body and thrown behind her to the mirror. She screamed as the cancer started to form almost instantly under her flesh. Don't care much for that, do you, little girl? Clef dropped the gun and tackled her before she could recover, hitting her tiny waist sharply and pushing her toward the mirror, grasping SCP-093 and shoving. They fell into a strange field, with rolling wheat and smells of emptiness. The girl was rolling on the ground, willing herself up off the ground pitifully. Clef stood nearby, knocking the bits of wheat and grass off his armor. He walked over and forced her body over. Sorry, dearie, different world, different rules. Finally, he managed to knock her out. As she loses consciousness, her eyes thankfully glossed in the pleasant emptiness of oblivion. Remember to check out my new animation channel, The Rubber Talks, where I share my life story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description to enter the Rubber's world.
Thank you guys
Before we end this video, we are proud to present these incredibly sweet pieces of fan art. A big thank you to all of you.
Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, and maybe smash that bell if you haven't already. And I'll see you. Wait. I'm doing Dennis's outro. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, boys. Hiya!